In this video, I wanted to share with you a pattern for this little pouch. It can serve as a pencil case, fits your pencils perfectly, or you can use it as an eyeglasses case too. It just fits glasses, even a bigger sunglasses. I created this pattern because I have a lot of smaller scraps of vinyl laying around, and I just didn't want anything to go to waste, so I decided to create a pattern that could feature some scraps of vinyl that doesn't look scrappy. So I created this two-tone little pencil / eyeglasses case. This pattern is available in my Etsy store. The link to the pattern is in the description box below. If you would like to join my Facebook group or follow me on Instagram, both links are in the description box below also. Now, if you want to see me creating this little zipper pouch, please keep watching. To start our project, we're gonna prep all our pattern pieces. When you purchase the pattern, it will come with a printable pattern pieces, so you're just gonna follow the instructions on the pattern pieces themselves, and through the cut list, how to cut your needed pattern pieces. There's not many. There's the accent vinyl, the main vinyl, 2 lining panels, and also the pattern will include interfacing for your lining if you want the pouch to serve as a sunglasses or eyeglasses pouch. So you're going to be able to interface the lining to give it a little more cushion. Also, we would need zipper tape. So the measurement for the zipper tape is in the pattern. I'm gonna add a little accent piece for my back tag. I'm gonna show you how I do that. You're gonna need 2 tabs for the zipper ends and some rivets and a zipper pull. Just a note that I created the zipper in a way that the zipper creates the tabs that you can easily pull on when you're closing and opening your pouch. If that's something you don't want and you don't like, you can sew the pouch exactly how I show you in the instructions, but on the end you can just pop the little tabs inside, and then you're just gonna have a cover corners. So that's something that it's up to you. I wanted to be able to have the little tabs that I can pull on when I'm closing and opening the pouch, so that's why I created the pattern this way, but it's flexible and you can adjust it to your taste. So our first step, I'm gonna put all those little elements aside for now, and I'm gonna start with prepping my front panel. So what you want to do, you want to place both outer panels right sides together along the long edge. Secure that with clips. And you're gonna, when you have that clipped and aligned, I didn't do the best job, you're gonna take it to the machine and you're gonna sew along this edge with a 3/8 of an inch seam allowance and 2.5 stitch length, and make sure to back stitch on the beginning and on the end of the seam. When you have those 2 panels sewn together, you're gonna open the unit and butterfly the seam. We wanna then take the panel to the machine, making sure that the seam is butterflied on the back. We're gonna top stitch on each side of the seam with a 1/8 of an inch seam allowance and 3.5 stitch length. Now I top stitched my seam allowances so they are nice and open on the back, and it creates this nice accent on the front. When I have that done, I'm gonna move on to working on my back tag. So I choose to do a backing for my back tag, that it's a piece of this accent vinyl, and I cut the accent vinyl 1/4 of an inch larger on all sides than my tag. I'm not giving you the exact measurement because your back tag might be completely a different size. So what you're gonna do, you're just gonna measure your back tag, or just place it on top of the scrap of the vinyl and just cut rough piece of vinyl that it's about 1/4 of an inch larger on each side. Then I'm gonna take my pinking shears, and those are just regular pinking shears, and I'm gonna trim the edges. It will give like a nice spiky edge to my accent. When I have my accent piece trimmed, I'm gonna measure if it looks good on my tag, and I'm happy with it. So now I'm gonna take some double-sided tape, cut a small piece, and attach it to the wrong side of my accent panel. Take the backing off, and I want to be about an inch away from the accent seam. So you can take a ruler and just place it. So I'm just eyeballing it, so I know I want to be about an inch away from the seam and somewhere in the middle between this cut and the top edge of my pouch. So it doesn't have to be precise, but you know, just choose the placement of the tag you like. Maybe you like it on the bottom on this side. Just keep in mind the seam allowances that gonna come in for our box corners. So now that I have the backing of my back tag affixed to my unit, I'm gonna take it to the machine, and I'm gonna top stitch all around with the 1/8 of an inch seam allowance and 3.5 stitches. I top stitch my little accent on my unit. So now I'm gonna take my back tag, and I see that this hole is not punched through, so I'm gonna use my hole punch to help it out. And using double-sided tape again, I'm gonna place a piece on the back of my tag, and now I'm gonna center the back tag on the top of my little accent. And when I have that affixed and I'm happy with how it looks like, I'm gonna again take my hole punch and punch holes. Now I'm gonna insert my rivets. And secure the rivets with my rivet press. Just like that, my little tag is attached, and my front panel is now completed. Now we can move on to attaching our zipper. You're gonna take your zipper and you're gonna place it teeth side down on the top edge of your unit, making sure you are centering the tape. So you want to make sure you have equal overhang on both sides of the side of your outer panel. Now you're gonna secure the unit with clips. And now we want to make sure that we're gonna slip the zipper tape off the top edge about 1 inch away from each side. So you're gonna take some pins, take a ruler so you can see where 1 inch mark is, and using the pin you can pin the zipper at the 1 inch mark. Just pin it within a seam allowance, so make sure that you are not perforating your vinyl. lower than 1/4 of an inch from the top edge. Repeat that on the other side. When you have that mark on both sides, you can now split the zipper tape. Flip your unit over and center the half of the zipper on the other edge of the pouch. Secure that with clips. And repeat what we just did with marking the 1 inch away from each side. Now that you have your unit prepped like this, you're gonna take it to the machine and you're gonna base the zipper tape onto your outer panel. When you are starting your seam, make sure you're gonna pull the zipper tape away so you can base the zipper in a way that it will stay unsewn on each end. So you wanna pull the zipper, start your seam, continue your seam, and when you get to the mark, pull the zipper tape out again and just continue sewing a little bit after the tape. And this way, this will secure the placement of our zipper tape on both top edges of our pouch. Now that my zipper is based on both top edges of my pouch, I'm gonna attach the lining. So I'm gonna take one of the lining panels and align it with the top edge of my project and clip it along the top edge, making sure my outer panel and my lining are right sides together. Repeat that on the other edge, making sure you are aligning the sides of the unit, so the lining should cover the outer panel. As you can see, I'm not clipping the lining right on top because I want to make sure that my zipper is pulled. So now I'm going to do that. I'm going to pull my zipper end off the way of the seam and now secure that part. And I'm going to repeat that on all sides. When you have your unit prepped like this, you're gonna take it to the machine and you're gonna sew from the beginning to the end of the edge with the 1/4 of an inch seam allowance and 2.5 stitch length. Make sure while you're sewing that you keep your ends of the zipper out of the way of the seam or by the sides of your pouch. So sewing the lining panels now, repeating the same technique on both ends of our unit. Now that our lining is sewed in and our ends are still free of the seam, that's how we want it, we're gonna flip our lining inside our bag. And because we are using vinyl, we cannot use the iron, so we're gonna just flip the lining and finger press the seam so we can prep it for top stitching. If you like to, you can use some clips to help it hold it in place. When you have your unit prepped like this, you're gonna take it to the machine and you're gonna top stitch on both sides, beginning where the zipper tape starts. So you're gonna top stitch along the edge and end it where the zipper tape ends. And you're gonna repeat the same thing on the other side. you're gonna use a 1/8 of an inch seam allowance and 3.5 stitch length. Now we have our zipper seam stop stitched on both sides. We're gonna move on to sewing our outer and lining panels together. What you want to do first, you want to secure your zipper, so you can use pins to just pin the zipper ends to the zipper tape. When you have your zipper tape secured, then you're gonna match the top seams. So you want to make sure that the lining is right side together and the outer panels are right sides together, and that your top seam meets. So that's the point you want to start with. You're gonna secure that first, and then you're gonna continue securing your sides. And your lining. Repeat that on the other side. So you want to make sure that first the top seam is aligning nicely. And also you're gonna clip the bottom of your lining, since we have an opening there. And also we want to mark opening in the bottom of the lining that will remain unsewn. So you want to mark about 1.5 inches from each side. And when you're going to be sewing the project now, you want to make sure that you're not going to sew this opening. We want to make sure it stays open. So we're going to take our project to the machine, and now we're going to sew the sides together with a 3/8 of an inch seam allowance and 2.5 stitch length, and those little parts of our bottom of the lining. And make sure you're going to backstitch well where the opening starts and ends, so when we turn our project right side out, the stitches won't come undone. Also a tip, if you have issues with the side seams shifting while you're sewing, and that's something that happens to me all the time, I actually start with basting those little parts first. So I go to my machine, I baste the side seam together first, making sure they are now aligning nicely, and then I continue sewing the rest of the project. So that's something you may consider doing if you want to make sure your side seams will align nicely. Now that we have the sides of the outer panel sewn and the sides of the lining and the little pieces of our bottom edge of the lining sewn, we're gonna box our corners. So we're gonna start with our outer panels. You wanna pull the sides of the panels, butterfly the seam again, and just clip the corners. Repeat that on the other side. And the lining. When you have all your corners prepped like this, you're gonna take it to the machine and you're gonna sew the outer panel corners at 1/4 of an inch seam allowance and 2.5 stitch length. And you can actually sew two seams really close to each other to make sure that the stitching won't show when you turn the project right side out. So that's on the outer. on the lining, use 3/8 of an inch seam allowance and 2.5 stitch length, and just make sure you are back stitching well on the beginning and end of each seam. Now that our corners are boxed, we can trim our outer panels to 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. And now we can turn our project right side out. Make sure you're gonna poke those corners out. And here you wanna, again, butterfly the seams, and you can secure that with a clip. Do the same thing on the other side. And now you can release the zipper ends. Make sure the lining sits nicely inside your pouch, that everything looks correct from the outside. And now if that's something that bothers you and you would like the side seam on the top to be affixed so it stays flat, you can take it to the machine and you can continue the top stitching from this side to just close the top stitching line all around your project. And that's something I'm gonna do to make sure that my side seam stays nice and flat while I'm using my pouch. So I'm gonna take it to the machine, start my seam where the top stitching ends, and continue it to the other end, and do that on both sides. Now that I've finished my top stitching and now my seam allowances inside are nice and flat, I can finish up my lining. So you want to pull the lining out of your bag, fold the raw edges inside the opening, pull on it so it folds on itself, and now you can secure that with pins. And now when you have that done, you're gonna take it to the machine and you're gonna top stitch along the opening with 1/16 to 1/8 of an inch seam allowance and 2.5 stitch length. And again, don't forget to back stitch on the beginning and on the end of the seam. I close my opening in the lining. Now I'm gonna place it back inside of my bag. And now we can move on to our finishing touches. So we're gonna attach our zipper pull, and you want to make sure that the seams of the accent vinyls align nicely, and that's how you want to align your zipper. And now you can insert your zipper pull. You want to run it all the way through. Yet again, you want to make sure that your accent vinyl aligns nicely. I did a pretty good job, so I'm happy with that. And then we're gonna reinsert the zipper pull again. So now it's on, and now we're gonna work on our zipper tabs. So you wanna have about an inch of a zipper tape overhand on each end. So we're gonna trim our extra zipper tape. So I'm gonna take my ruler and just mark an inch. Trim my zipper tape. And I want to make sure it's not gonna unravel, so I'm gonna melt the ends with my lighter. Now I'm gonna attach the zipper tabs on each end of my zipper tape. So I have my zipper tabs pre-cut. The measurement of the tab is 1.25 by 1.25 because I'm using the zipper tape number 5, and that's the width of the tape. So if you are using a tape that is a different size, just make sure you cut those tabs to size. And I recommend still to have them at 1.25 inch, but the width of it should be the width of your zipper. So mine are cut a little larger, but that's fine because then it gives me more room to just trim them after I'm done. So to help myself with the installation, I'm gonna use some double-sided tape, and I'm gonna place small pieces on each side, the top and the bottom of the zipper tape on both ends. So now I'm gonna remove the backing on one end, and I'm gonna fold my tab in half and insert it onto the end of the zipper. Repeat that on the other side. And now you have two options. You can use rivets to attach the zipper tabs, and that's what I'm gonna do. So I'm gonna show you how to do that. Or if you don't have rivets or you don't want to use rivets, you can take it to the machine and you can top stitch the tabs onto the zipper tape. So that's up to you. I'm gonna go ahead and install my rivets. I'm gonna install one small rivet on each side of the fabric of the zipper tape on both ends. Now that my tabs are secured to my zipper, I'm gonna trim the edges. The project is now completed. I create this cute little pouch. It can be used as a pencil case or an eyeglasses case, or even as a small cosmetic pouch for your purse. It will fit a compact powder or a makeup and some little things that women like to carry with them in their purses. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial and that you're gonna give the project a go. If you like my videos and you would like me to create more sewing tutorials, please make sure to subscribe to my channel and to give this video a like. Till the next time.